Alright, so we're going to move from Minglewood Blues into another song called Stagolee. Now Stagolee means a lot to me because this was the song that helped me put the blues together. It's a true story. There really was a Billy Lyons, there really was a Stagolee, and the song, for whatever reason, has become part of the American folklore and blues folklore. And the cool thing about it is there's hundreds of recordings out there of the song. And when I was a kid, I'd always be looking for a different version of Stagolee because I knew everybody put their own spin on it. And the first version we're going to look at was recorded by a fellow named Furry Lewis. He played it in C, so we're going to play it in C on the banjo. And it's a 3-chord song. We'll do the same thing we do with Minglewood. Just play a basic Frailing strum, go through the chord progression. I'm going to start in C. I remember one September, it was on a Friday night. Stagolee and Billy Lyons had a terrible fight. Crying when you lose your money, learn to lose. All I'm playing here is C. I remember one September, it was on a Friday night. Goes to F. Stagolee and Billy Lyons had a terrible. Goes to C. Fight. Crying when you G. Lose your money, learn to C. Lose. Let's go over that one more time. Basic Frailing strum. I remember one September, it was on a Friday night. Stagolee and Billy Lyons had a terrible fight. Crying when you lose your money, learn to lose. Now Furry was an interesting guitar player. What he did, he took that 3-chord pattern, C, F, and G, and when he was singing, he grabbed the guitar. When he was singing the song, he kept it pretty simple. I remember one September, it was on a Friday night. Stagolee and Billy Lyons had a terrible fight. Crying when you lose your money, learn to lose. When it came to the solo, he did something really interesting. He doesn't go into a guitar break. He takes the same chord progression and voices it. Changes the chords a little bit here, a little bit there, to almost imply a melody. It's almost a chord melody like you'd hear on tenor banjo. So he'd start with the C, change the C chord, back to C, then to F, then G. Very simple, but when you put it to a finger picking pattern, now, when we go to the banjo, we don't have alternating bass to play with. We don't have quite the same latitude to mess around with the C chord the way we do on the guitar. It's a different tuning, different chord structure. So what we can do is take that idea from Furry. Rather than copy the melody of the solo note for note, take the idea. We have a C chord. Let's change the C chord. Let's move it from the 2nd fret to the 5th fret. Throw in a pull off. Go to F. Go to G. Then we play 1st string 5th fret. 3rd fret. Go to C. Now we take that to the basic Frailing strum. It sounds like a lot more than it really is. It's something very simple. Because we're flowing with the rhythm, it comes across more like. I remember one September, it was on a Friday night. Stagolee and Billy Lyons had a terrible fight. Cry when you lose your money, learn to lose. It's simple, but there's a sweetness to it. There's a little bit of glitz in there. And that's one of the things I love about Furry Lewis. His music is pretty straightforward, but he was really creative in how he played around with the chord forms. And if you listen to his other songs, I Can Make Your Money Green, things like that, it's great stuff. And you can take those ideas and translate them to the banjo. Remember how we went through this. We identified the rhythm and the chord structure of the song. I remember one September, it was on a Friday night. Stagolee and Billy Lyons had a terrible fight. Cry when you lose your money, learn to lose. And once we had that groove going, play around with some hammer-ons and pull-offs, just like we do with Minglewood Blues. We're in the key of C, so we're not going to go into the 3rd fret as much. But something as simple as hammering on the bass string, it creates a whole new groove. You got that country blues feel by moving one finger. Now I remember one September, it was on a Friday night. Stagolee and Billy Lyons had a terrible fight. Cry when you lose your money, learn to lose. Now we go to the solo. It's simple, but because we've gone about identifying how the song is built, then we can play with it. There's no searching, there's no wondering. Something as simple as a hammer-on, something as simple as a pull-off can change the flavor of a song. And a good way to illustrate that is to go take a look at one of my other guitar heroes, the great Mississippi John Hurt. It's a totally different version of Stagolee. Different chord progression, he plays it in D, different lyrics, different feel. Police officer, now how can it be? You can arrest everybody, cruel Stagolee, that man made no cruel Stagolee. And what he did, and this is why looking at these old blues players really pays off sometimes, it's not a song that you can really work up note for note. Learning Stagolee from tablature is like eating peanut butter to drive your car better. It doesn't click. When you actually just strum through the song, you can see where he's coming from. Police officer, now how can it be? Okay, how do we take that long D chord, make it interesting? Do just what we do on the banjo. Play around with the chord form, throw a hammer on it. Police officer, now how can it be? You can arrest everybody. Oh, that's all it is, but it works. Now we go to the banjo, we've got another problem. We don't have alternating bass. And every now and then I'll run into a guy who's obsessed with playing Mississippi John Hurt note for note on the banjo. And you can't do it. We don't have the same instrument to work with. We're short bass strings. We've only got the one low bass, and it's not even a bass, it's so high. The chord structure doesn't work quite as well. Now we can play it in D if we want. For this workshop, playing in the key of D out of G tuning is a whole nother workshop. So let's put the song in C and take a look at it from the way he laid it out, the structure of the song. C. Police officer, now how can it be? F. You can arrest everybody, but cruel Stago, back to C. Lee, that G. Man, oh cruel Stagolee. And from that perspective, it's not that different from Furry Lewis. Go rewind the DVD a little bit, look at how he went through it, and if we do the basic Frailing strum, police officer, now how can it be? You can arrest everybody, cruel Stagolee, that bad man, oh cruel Stagolee. Okay, so what did Mississippi do when he was playing the song? He threw some hammer-ons in to create a rhythmic pulse for the song. Police officer, now how can it be? You can arrest everybody, cruel Stagolee. Like that man, oh cruel Stagolee. I know part of you's watching this right now going, it can't be that simple. It is. It's a matter of taking some really basic techniques and playing with them. And before this DVD started filming, I was struggling with a way to sum up the blues. And I'm really good with words, but dear old Dad's, how do I put it, debonair. And he looked at me and shrugs and says, master your rhythm. Sips his coffee and walks away. You know. Dear old Dad's really good about that. The blues is mastery of rhythm. And that's really what it's about. If you get wrapped up in playing exactly like Mississippi John Hurt or exactly like Furry Lewis, number one, you shouldn't be playing the banjo. You should be playing the guitar. And even then, it's not going to be you. It's not going to be the blues. If you take the ideas they were playing with and put them on the banjo, suddenly it's not only accessible, it's not only simple, it's powerful. Complex things aren't always powerful. You know, a thunderstorm doesn't have to explain itself. And I like your old Dad's sum up. You know, the blues is mastery of rhythm. I got a really cool dad. So with either song, identify the structure of the song. Identify the rhythm of the song. Get the rhythm down cold. And once you can do that without thinking about it, play with it. Bat it around. What happens if I do this? And a good place to look for ideas on how to play with rhythm is the old pocket rocket, harmonica. Now here's the thing, if you're playing the banjo, you're in G tuning. The harmonica you want is not the key of G. You want a C harmonica. I know you're... it's complicated and it's not. They call it cross harp. And what's happening is you're playing the harmonica at a different spot to almost get a G scale out of a C harp. So in the key of G, you want to play a C harmonica. And what they do is, if you want to play in the key of C, you'd find the 5th, 6th hole and blow. And you can play in C. To play in the key of G, you go closer 1st, 2nd hole on the harmonica and draw. And as you listen to blues harmonica players, what they're doing, like in the key of G, they're starting around the first 3 holes of the harmonica and they're drawing in. And what that gives you is this sound. Why this came about, there's a lot of theories floating around. I think what it really was the idea of making the most of what you have. Somebody had a C harp, a guy shows up, knows a song in G. Well, how do I get the key of G out of this harmonica? And they liked the sound so much that it became part of the blues and evolved into a whole different art form. But if you grab a harmonica and start playing around with that blues scale sound, and you go to the banjo, and we're on C harp. You grab the banjo. Hear that? If we were playing in straight G, we'd go 3rd string, 2nd fret. Listen to it on the harmonica. Because the scale's all messed up, we're going to the 3rd string, 3rd fret. Difference between country music and blues. Blues. And if you listen to the old records, Blind Boy Fuller, Sonny Terry and Brownie McGee, unbelievable stuff. And what the harmonica is doing is just playing this creepy off-scale sound with a rhythm to it. The melody notes don't mean as much as the rhythm. And as you're listening to the harmonica in these old string band albums, these old blues albums, and you can, okay, we know the song's in G. We know it's going to be G, C, and D. We know that if we go to the 3rd fret, we've got a blues sound. And from that point on, you're on your own. You can take the song and start playing with it. And if it's Stagolee, if it's Mingle with Blues, or as we're going to be going back to in the next chapter, Samson Delilah, or Rolling and Tumbling, we're identifying the structure of the song, the chord progression, and then playing with it. Or so then what you take away from this chapter is don't get too wrapped up in specifics. The one thing the blues harmonica can teach us is the specifics don't mean anything. You know, technically this harmonica should only be used for the key of C, but it works in the key of G because we're throwing the rule book out the window. And we're finding pleasing sounds, and we're playing with them. And then we're taking that play and dropping it into the framework of the language of music. So everything we're doing still, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Staying in that rhythmic structure. But at the same time we're playing. And we're finding out that sometimes notes that shouldn't go together really do work together. So as you're playing with Stagolee, as you're playing with Mingle with Blues, don't be afraid to experiment. And listen to the guitar. Listen to what the guitar players were looking for. Listen to the harmonica. Listen to the piano. And you'll find it's the same thing over and over again. We have the structure of the song. We have the chord progression of the song. And within that framework, we're running around buck naked, waving our arms in the air. Wahoo! We're having fun. And when we find a sound that works, we run with it. So play around with Stagolee, go back, play around some more with Mingle with Blues. In the next chapter, we're going to take another look at Samson Delilah. We're going to take a look at Rolling and Tumbling. Have a lot of fun. Get that blues thing going. I'll see you in the next chapter.